18 meeting of the Radnor Zoning Hearing Board to order. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One housekeeping point before we start. We'll be proceeding tonight's meeting without the usual attendance of the Township solicitor. So if council or other individuals have materials that they want to hand up, or excuse me, for the board solicitor, hand things up to our vice chair, Mr. Nagel, in the absence of the board solicitor. First item for consideration, Appeal 3025. The applicant, Michael and Janice Carson, property located at 310 Oak Lane and zoned R2 residential, requests relief to construct a detached garage in the front and side yard setbacks. Applicant seeks a variance from section 280-22 or such other relief consistent with the plans and exhibits presented. I see that the applicant is here and is represented. And counsel, you can proceed.
Evening. Nick Keneally representing Michael and Janice Carson. Michael's here seated to my left, and Janice is seated in the back there. Anna, please swear me in.
I will. Michael Carson.
There you go, Mike. Just to brief what this is about, it's a corner lot. It is further restrained because of floodplain issues. The proposed garage will not be in the floodplain. It's about the only area where there is no floodplain except for the house itself. And it's irregularly shaped. We're proposing a detached garage that you'll see the plans and pictures of. And Mike, if you could just, again, I believe you introduced yourself. And
yes.
Do you own the property, 310 Oak Lane?
Yes. We have lived there for a number of years, and yeah, we own the property outright.
I'm showing you what's been marked as A2, and is that a copy of the deed
Yes.
to the property? And actually, that deed's dated December 18th of 98, but I believe you've owned it
Since 71.
Since 1971, correct.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as A3, which is a Google aerial of this site. And if you can, just identify for the board, I believe this house here at the corner of Beech Tree and Oak Lane is your home, correct?
Yes. This is the front yard here.
On Oak Lane, you're pointing to Oak Lane?
That's the front yard. Yeah, what we consider the front yard.
And there's a walkway out to the
Exactly, yeah.
street from there. And then on
This is
Beech
side-
Tree?
We call this a side street, but as I understand it, we have two front yards because it's a corner property. So, and this is where our driveway is.
You're indicating along
Right,
Beech Tree?
Right there, yes, right on the Beech Tree. And right in around here is where we would want to put the garage.
A little bit, if you're looking at the photograph, if you're looking down the photograph, it would be to the left of that, a little bit to the left and on that driveway.
Yes, yeah, and that's the setback that we're hoping to get approval for.
No, actually, the setback is the front yard setback, right? You comply with the side yard setback.
Okay.
All right.
Well, yeah, you call that a front yard.
Meaning the East Beech Tree Lane, yeah.
that's- I
Okay.
confuse that all the time.
All right. And then across the street, there's a bunch of nonconformities in the area that will later
Yes.
go on, but you can see
Yeah.
a couple on this map right here, immediately
Right.
across the street.
Yep.
And then again, a little bit further down the left,
Yeah.
there appears to be a nonconformity regarding front yard setback.
Yeah, there's many in that neighborhood. As you well know, that neighborhood's, since 1887, so there's many garages very close to the streets.
Yeah, when was your house built?
1887.
Now I'm going to show you what's been marked as A4, and is this what you're referring to as the front yard?
Yeah, that's the front yard, yes.
Okay, on Oak Lane.
Yes.
All right, and actually the address does give you Oak Lane as your address,
Yes,
right?
that's our address, yep.
And then A5, again, this is
Yeah, this is
the
Beech
driveway
Tree.
on
Yeah.
Beech Tree,
Uh-huh, and that's Beech Tree there.
right? And that shows your driveway. And the proposed garage would be a little bit to the right of
Yes,
that.
right, yes, right along this border of the driveway here.
It looks like you have a pretty heavy buffer there as well on that side.
Yeah, there's a lot of landscaping right along the street here that we would be inside the landscaping with the garage.
As well as on the side.
Yes, right, right.
Showing you what's been marked as A6, and this is a plot plan. And marked as A6, a plot plan is as you described. Your house is shown, your property shows the intersection of Beech Tree and Oak Lane.
Yes.
And I don't know how you would refer to the shape of this lot. Would you?
Yeah, I don't think there's a name for that. It used to be all the way down to here. This property
Down
was
to here,
sold off.
meaning going down to D. Woody
to here.
property?
Yeah, the
Yes,
D. Woody property was part of the property that we own now, and it was split off in the 50s. It was the barn for the house where we live now, was the barn right here, and they converted that into a home
Okay,
back
and
in the 50s.
You show the garage here, which is 24 feet wide and 22 feet deep, that complies with the side yard setback, as we mentioned, correct?
Yes.
As a detached
Yes.
garage, and it complies with the distance from the house as the 10 feet,
Right,
correct?
yes.
And so what we're asking relief for is from the right-of-way on Beech Tree.
Beech Tree, yes.
Now, where's the curb, or actually where the road, does that go beyond where the right-of-way
Now,
is?
the road is here. See where this
Where the sewer line is?
sewer cover line is there. That's right where the edge of the road is,
So we
not
probably-
here. The edge of the road is over here.
Right, so we have an addition, looks like probably about 15 feet to the edge of the road?
Yes, from this line here.
Quick interruption, Nick and folks in the future. Make it a point to use the mic because we may run a circumstance where our solicitor's got to prepare orders based upon the YouTube recording.
Okay.
So we want to make sure it's particularly clear.
All right. Now I'm going to show you what's been marked as A7. And we talked about floodplain here, and maybe you can indicate to the board with this map. Well, actually, why don't we look here first? Were you exempt, or is a portion of your property exempt from the floodplain?
Yes.
And
yeah,
this is what A7 represents from FEMA?
Yes, yeah, we got we had the whole place surveyed when we had an addition put on the house about 6 years ago to see what the floodplain situation was for that location. And they came up with a map, which is right here, that shows that the floodplain is obviously where the stream is, and then over in our front yard, over in this area, is where the floodplain is. But this, because of the certificate of elevation, this area is not in the floodplain.
Okay, so when you say where the stream is, so for example, I believe this one page here indicates a floodplain being, it looks like a little bit off your property,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
All right.
that's the stream.
All right, and then on the other side, as you had mentioned, the next page indicates the floodplain.
In the front yard.
In that area there.
Yeah. That's correct.
So really, the only area where you could place this garage is where where it's being proposed, so that it would not be in the floodplain.
That's correct.
You comply with all other zoning requirements except the front yard setback?
Yes.
You don't have any issues with impervious coverage or anything of that nature?
No.
You've had some elevations drawn indicating the garage itself.
Yes.
I'm going to show you what A8 is, if you could tell the board what A8 represents.
Okay, this is we had our architect come up with a drawing of the garage. So this is what it would look like in the front, facing the driveway right here. And then this is the numbers for the inside of it, with steps going up to a second floor, as you can see there, which would just be for storage. There's no idea of finishing that off.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as A9. Can you tell the board what that represents?
Yeah, that represents what the garage would look like, and it blends in with the house from an architectural standpoint. That was what we wanted to do, to make sure it didn't compete with the house or have any issues there, that it would look like it belongs where it is. And I think it does do that with that architecture.
Okay, I'm going to show you what's been marked as A10. It looks like a list of 4 pictures.
Yes, yeah, this is about where the garage would go, right?
You're referring to
here.
the bottom right-hand corner there?
Yes, yeah, where my finger is, yeah.
Are you hanging laundry out?
Janice is.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that in a long time. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And then this would look, this would be the back end of the garage here, facing this way, and the front of the garage would be right there. Right here on this picture here, this is where the front doors of the garage would be. And this here is, once again, that edge of the driveway where the garage would start.
Okay, these homes in your area,
Excuse me, I just want to make sure I'm, on this four-corner photo, I'm focused on the upper left.
This one,
With the landscaping and the tree, which is, at the far edge of that upper corner.
Right,
How is either the landscaping or the tree affected by the garage?
not at all.
Okay.
It would be inside of that,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
you had mentioned that this is an older property. What are the age of the homes,
They're
across
all
the
in the
street?
1887, 1888. This was a subdivision, as most people know, that was built back then. It was, we are told, one of the first subdivisions in the country that was built. It's on the National Historic Register also, the neighborhood.
And actually, you have to go to Harb for this. I don't know if
Yes,
you-
we'll have to go to Harb after this,
Okay.
definitely.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as A11, and if you can just tell the board what the significance of A11 is, and where is that located?
That's right across the street. Well, okay, see that. This is the house right across Beech Tree from our driveway. And that would be right, if you looked at this one, right over here. Oh, here it is right here, on this picture here.
Basically, across from the driveway?
Yeah, right, here's the driveway, and right across here is that house there.
Okay. Have you spoken to the owner of that home?
Yes, and he has no problem with it at all. In fact, he sent me a letter. He said he's happy to, accept a garage there without any problem, as have several of my other neighbors, too. I have letters from them. I've talked to all the neighbors that would be directly affected by this, and none of them have a problem with me putting a garage in.
Okay, on A...
Are we going to have any
Yeah.
letters?
I don't know if we... Do we have those letters?
Yeah, I have them in my,
Because I don't have them.
Yeah.
Okay.
let me get them out. There it is. Okay.
Go ahead, if you just describe...
Nick, let me suggest that you describe them generally by address and put them in as a single exhibit, and then maybe give us a sense of where the addresses are as compared to the property in question.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll mark it as, I believe I have a couple other exhibits. We have A11, A12, and A13. They just show other nonconformities and closest to the street. And I'll mark this as A14. And it's a list of letters. And the first one is from Nathan Jamison at 400 Oak Lane.
It's this house here.
That's shown in A11.
Yes.
And he's located directly across the
Yeah,
street from the
yes,
garage.
Exactly.
The next letter is 401 Oak Lane from the Thibodeaux,
Yes, and they're catty corner from us.
meaning
She's,
catty corner being on Oak over
Well, at
this
the
side?
corner of Oak and Beech Tree, we're at that one corner, well, here we go. Yeah, if you can do it here. There, this house, right, right there.
Okay, right in this area.
Yeah,
Yep.
that house.
All right. Buono at 311 Oak Lane?
Yeah, right across the street from us here.
Across from your front yard on
Yes,
Oak Lane?
yeah,
And I believe that's the 3?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've marked them as A11. I only have one copy. I'll hand those up.
But on the other side of the creek.
Yeah, I've talked to these folks too, and they're okay with it. I don't have a letter from them, but they indicated that, yeah, they're okay with it. And as I've talked to this owner too.
In the back there?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as A12. And again, it's a list of 3 homes, and you can just tell the board what those pictures represent.
Okay, these are other garages that are already existing that seem to be very close to the street. So that's why I took these pictures. This one is right down the street from us, not even a half a block away. The front of the house is on Walnut, but the garage here is on Oak Lane. These 2 garages here are down on a street 1 block away.
And that you're referring to 200 East Beach Tree and
Yeah.
201? If you can,
Yeah.
refer to the addresses. 200
Okay.
East Beach Tree and 201 Walnut.
Yes, yeah, that's those. And
I'm
this
sorry,
one is,
do you know the age of any of these garages that you're pointing out? Do you know when they were constructed?
no, I don't. They seem to be, they've been there, well, we've been there, as I say, over 40 years, and these garages have been there since then. So, and then this one, once again, that was catty corner from our house. That's what
And this is
this
401
garage.
Oak Lane.
401 Oak Lane, yeah.
And I'm going to show you A13.
And that one is very new. That's only a couple of years old, this one.
Okay, so they may have got, is that the Thibodeau's?
Yes.
Yeah, they did get relief for that. And A13?
And this one is right across the street from us, 1 house up from the house that's directly across the street.
Again,
The
you're
next
referring,
property,
what address? Do we know the address for that?
402 North, I think that's 402. And I don't know what this one is 401 North Wayne Avenue. This
middle one
house,
there.
this house here, yes.
How far is that from you?
Not far, well, it's maybe 40, 50 feet up the driveway, up the street from our driveway.
And then the bottom picture on A13 is 132 East Beach Tree.
Yes, yeah. And you can see how close that is to the street.
Nick, what house got relief?
This one here is 132
132, what is it?
East. And where's that
East
located,
what?
Michael? 132 East Beach Tree. You can show on A6 here.
Yeah, let me see. I'm thinking, I believe this is,
What direction, I should ask you?
no, okay, I don't believe this is on Beach Tree, even though it says at 132 East Beach Tree.
Okay.
I think it's down here 1 block and in this block down here, this garage.
Okay, so it's not
Yeah,
East,
it's not 132 East Beach Tree.
but it's someplace within a block of your
Yeah,
property.
it's within a block of the house, but it's not in East Beach Tree.
That's all I would have at this time.
Thank you. Do members of the board have questions of the witness?
Yeah, Mike, Nick, can you just take me through, and maybe A6 is the best way to do this. I'm trying to look at the setbacks here, where we are with this garage. If you can just go through, which are the front setbacks, which are the side yard, and I don't even know if there is a backyard setback here, but
Yeah, it looks like I would, again, you have the corner lot here.
yeah.
It appears to me that this would be the.
That would probably be the side, right?
Yeah, because normally you have 2 fronts. When you have a corner lot, you have a front, a side, or 2 fronts, a side, and a rear. On this one, I don't even know if we have what can be determined to be a rear or what could be determined to be a side.
Yeah. So if you did determine that, the lower piece to be a side, I guess you'd be about a half a foot short. It's 24.5
Well, it's
on the left.
detached, so, yeah, so actually it's detached, so it only has to be 10 feet anyway. So we wouldn't need, if it was attached, then we would have to comply with the rear and side yard setback
All right, so-
because it's
So
detached.
you have 10 feet on the,
Yeah.
on the beech tree side,
Right.
and so that has to be 40, right?
That would have to
Based
be
on-
40, yes,
okay,
according to
got it.
code.
Got it.
Right. And whether this is a side or rear, over here where the creek is,
Yeah.
since it's detached, it only has to be 10 feet. So really, the only the relief that we're requesting is the front yard on Beech Tree is
Okay.
the relief that we would be requesting. As I mentioned, the hardship would be, you have certainly an irregularly shaped lot, you have a corner lot, which causes a problem, then you have this whole area here just cut off because of floodplain.
Could you show me on the plan where the addition was that you constructed 6 years ago?
Yes, right here. This, right about here.
Okay, so out of the floodplain, thank God.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
and that
And,
was,
and a space smaller than the proposed garage?
I
Yeah, it
don't
looks like it is. It's-
Well, no, because there was it's actually here and here. We came out of the house, the original rear of the house, we came out a little bit, and then we came from the side of the house out this way. So square footage-wise, I think it would be about the same or maybe a little more.
So with having constructed that addition, there now is nowhere to put a garage compliant with the setbacks and in consideration of the floodplain.
Although, could you have put the garage in that location?
That's another way to ask that question.
I don't know. Yeah.
Because it looks like it's in the rear of your home is where the
Yeah,
addition
I
was.
mean-
It was attached.
Yeah, I mean, you
into
would
the
have had
rear.
to come all the way around here. I don't know, and just, yeah, we didn't consider it then.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Let me ask the
issues,
question
too.
a different way. You indicated that no consideration had been given to constructing the garage. At that time, the
Right.
choice was for living space
Yeah.
as opposed to garage space, which now, obviously, you're looking to construct.
Yeah, yes.
I mean,
There were
I would say the
budgetary
odd part
issues.
about me is obviously the size of the lot would, if they had not been in a floodplain, gives them a tremendous amount of space to build if it wasn't for FEMA. And
It
that's-
would be
to
an
me, that's the
irregularly
hardship.
shaped building, though, if you were going all the way to the setbacks. I mean, this is an odd lot. Even if it were flat and no water in sight, this is an odd.
Yeah, I mean, the good part is, they're significantly below the impervious in the building area, to me. And it's just, they only have a certain place to build, and that's it. And to me, elimination of the deck would, obviously that could solve it, but doesn't seem like it makes it to be a good backyard.
Let's save some of that for potential discussion within the board. Are there other questions for I have one quick question. There's reference to a shed. Is this shed currently encroaching?
Is it currently what?
Is it across the property line currently, and then you're just taking it down?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that has to be removed.
Yeah.
Okay. It's being removed.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, the shed is actually, it's over this way now. That was moved last year. It's not exactly in
still-
that point, but it still overhangs the property line a little bit, yes.
Is it still your intent that the shed is removed?
No, it was not my intent to do that, but.
You're going to have to
But
remove.
if I'm going to have to do
you're gonna
that, I have to think
yeah,
about that.
it's-
Or move it.
Yeah, you can move it.
I could move
But
it.
it has to be 10 feet from the property. You could put it maybe in the back or behind the
Yeah.
garage somewhere, but yeah, it can't be
Okay.
located on someone else's property.
So it'll be,
Well, whose property is this?
that's not our
Yeah,
issue.
That's
it's
the
not yours.
township's- It's the township's property.
Well,
It's not my neighbor's property.
that's still not an excuse. We will rely upon council's assertion that the shed will be removed to a location where it's not within the setback and where it's on your property.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone else here in the room who wants to be heard as to this matter? Okay. Seeing none, last call for any questions for the witness or their counsel? Seeing none, does anyone want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for appeal number 3025, which is 310 Oak Lane, looking for some relief on the garage in support of the motion.
Okay, so the motion is that relief be granted. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that. Second.
Okay. And again, in the absence of in the absence of opposition, there may not need to be a full opinion, but essentially the rationale is that it's because of the floodplain and the irregular shaped lot that a hardship is presented that justifies the proposed relief. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The matter passes 5-0. Good luck with your project.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck with the harb. It's a nice design. It looks pretty good.
These guys are easy. They're the harp.
All right, the next item for our consideration is Appeal 3026. The applicant, Kids Clubhouse of the Main Line LLC, property located at 150 North Radnor Chester Road and zoned PB planned business, seeks to operate a child daycare center in 4,244 square feet of a 340,380 square foot building. The daycare center will serve the needs of the surrounding tenants in the business community. Applicant seeks a variance from section 280-59 of the zoning code or contends that the use is permitted as part of the total development of an integrated planned business community. Applicant further seeks relief from section 280-103B19 regarding the required number of off-street parking spaces for the child daycare use. Additionally, applicant seeks any other relief required by the zoning code consistent with the exhibits and testimony presented. Counsel, you can
Thank you.
proceed.
Nick Canoia, representing the applicant, and Angela.
I do. Angela Bruno, Bruno.
And this is, just to give you an idea of how the testimony is going to go here. Actually, Les, why don't you, I have Les Santinello, and perhaps he should testify first because he's a representative of the landlord. They have a lease contingent upon this approval with Kids Clubhouse, which is Angela. So I'll have Les testify first, then Angela to describe the use. Les will describe the property that we're talking about. I think you're all familiar with it. And then, as I mentioned, Angela and perhaps one or two other witnesses if necessary. Okay.
I do. Lester Santinello, Santinello.
And Les, by whom are you employed?
Brandywine Realty Trust.
And Brandywine, I'm going to show you what's been marked as A2, and this is the deed to Radnor Properties SDC, LP. Is that the owner of the property?
That is the owner of the property.
And when we talk about the property, we're talking about what we refer to, I guess, as three addresses or three parcels.
Yes, 130, 150, and 170 Radnor Chester Road.
And 150 is the one we're referring to that is the subject of this
Yes, sir.
application. And that's the larger of the three buildings.
It is the larger piece, yes.
Okay. And we're not talking about 555, the tall building on Lancaster Avenue.
No.
That's a separate parcel.
Completely separate, yes.
Again, A3, and I'll mark this and hand it up to the board. I don't know if the board has, it's the power of attorney from the owner giving Les permission to appear here for the owner this evening. And then A4 is permission from you to authorize the tenant to proceed with the application and the hearing here this evening.
Yes.
Okay. I've marked as A5, and this is basically the site plan for the site, correct?
Yes.
All right, and we're talking about the building here is, the building I'm representing here is the building that if you can, it says 3-story brick office building, the larger of the blocks.
It's 3,449 square feet.
I don't think it's 3,000. How
Or
many?
349,000 square feet.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then you have the 2 smaller buildings on the side.
Correct.
The area that Kids Clubhouse would lease, where is that located? Is that located kind of in this area here?
Right back here, yes.
All right. And it's on the first floor?
First floor, and it has its own entrance into the building.
And how many square feet is it?
It's 4224, I believe.
And just showing A6, is this an aerial view of the site?
Yes.
And so the area where Kids Clubhouse would be about in this area?
Yes, sir.
And, one interesting thing, what do you notice about the parking or available parking here as we look at A6?
Well, if you look on the, let's say, the left side of the building, the parking is pretty dense, but if you look to the right side of the building, where the 170 and the location for the future, hopefully the future kids club, there is plenty of vacant parking located on that end. So parking for the kids club and parking and dropping off for the users of the kids club would not be an issue.
What are I believe that Angela will testify as to some photographs she took at various times, but would you say the busiest times for the office complex would be Tuesday afternoons and Wednesday mornings?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as A7, and if you just tell the board, what that represents.
That's just a front picture of the front of the building with our fountain location and the drive up to the front of the building.
And of course, this, as we said, this is behind, on the rear of the building.
Correct.
This location. And then A8, again, we'll get Angela to talk more about this, but this is the proposed floor plan, 4,244 square feet.
Yes.
And then just for the board's sake, the application or the rules always require that you list any relevant zoning hearings. And this site was developed back in 1983. An attorney who represented them had black hair at that time. And basically, it granted relief to for smaller parking spots. I've attached A10, and you'll see at that time the parking code requirement is to number of parking spaces differed from what it is today. Back then, you can actually deduct hallways, stairways, bathrooms, things of that nature. Now they just give you 80%. So relief was asked was for the size of the spots to actually conform the number of spots. It was more the size of the spots that they asked for relief for, and that was granted. And basically, A9, A10, A11 just show, the codes and why it was granted. Going to show you just A12, and I have not. I'll mark this and hand it up because we haven't handed it up yet. And if you can just tell the board what A12 represents.
A12 represents the rear entrance of the 150 building. That would be the entrance for the proposed kids club. They have their own private entrance coming into the building.
Quick question regarding parking, and I'm going to ask this in reference to A6. The parking that we see there, you mentioned 130, 150, 170. Is the lot that's viewed there used for each of those properties or just 150?
For each of those properties.
Okay, so that's the parking?
Yes.
Okay. What's your current occupancy rate for the 3 buildings?
Right now, we're probably about 90%.
The 349, that's just the one building or that's all 3 together?
That's one building.
And the other 2 combined for about how much?
450,000 total.
Total, 390 plus 450 or 450?
It's 479,000 total for all
Okay.
3 buildings.
And you're saying about 10% of that may be currently vacant?
Yes.
And it would be sort of standard that you would have a vacancy rate of 5% anyway. I mean, you're not likely to get to 100%.
We wish, but
I
no,
know.
we don't get
Okay.
there.
All right. Thank you. You can continue.
And Angela is proposing what you would say would be a drop-off daycare.
Yes.
But is that an attraction for your tenants, you think? I'll ask you first.
We have polled our tenants. Naturally, Lincoln Financial Group is our largest tenant, and we were very surprised. Well, we weren't surprised, but we were happy to learn that they were all pretty much on board with the thought of putting in a daycare center at this location. It's going to help their employees as well as some of the neighborhood constituents who live around us.
That's all I have for Les.
Do any of the board members have questions for this witness? Okay.
Angela? And Angela, again, can you state your name?
Yes, Angela Bruno.
And where do you live, Angela?
I live in Bryn Mawr.
You can say
That's
the
our
street.
820 Sproul Road
Okay.
in Bryn Mawr.
You live in Radnor Township?
Yes,
right,
Radnor
okay.
Township.
And who do you live with?
I live with my husband and my 3 children.
And the age of the children, they're young, right? 3
Yes.
under 6?
Yes, they're 6 and 3 and 3.
So this is part of your experience
Yes.
with doing this, okay. Describe for the board what you're proposing to do here and why.
Sure. I'm originally from this area, but I spent 4 years in Austin, Texas, where drop-in daycares are almost on every corner. So I had that assurance when I needed, I wanted to go to a doctor's appointment, and I didn't want to bring my 3 kids with me, or I wanted to run some errands, didn't want to bring them with me, or my oldest school was closed, but my husband had to work and I had to do something. I knew that I could bring them there. When we moved back here, we've been back for almost a year and a half now. I was just surprised to find that there's nothing like that. So unless you're in a full-time daycare already, there's nowhere that you can just, on a drop of a dime, if your babysitter cancels, you can't take your kids anywhere. You hope that you can find a babysitter, but there's really nowhere that you can take that you know has reliable people there. So
how are you differing from a traditional daycare?
So we won't have the same 30 or some kids there every day. It'll be a drop-off daycare where once people are registered and pay their registration fee, they can call. As long as we're at over capacity, they can bring their kids in, stay for an hour, stay for 8 hours, and we're also going to be open late nights and weekends as well. So people want to go on a date night, they can't find a babysitter, so it's going to be a great option for them.
Are you going to do anything traditional regarding the daycare center?
Yes, since we are hoping to be in this place where there's a lot of other office people working in offices, we're going to be offering about 20 to 25% of whatever our capacity ends up being, which should be around 45 kids in the space. About 20 to 25% of that will be full-time daycare during the day, and that will only be offered to the employees who work in those buildings. And I've been there. I sat outside in the lobby for a day, and I had within 2 hours, I had almost a full page of people saying, yes, we want our kids there in the daycare program for full time. Then I also had probably 2 pages full of people saying we're interested in the drop-off daycare.
What are the ages that we're referring to?
Ages 2 to 12.
And what your hours of operation would be?
Yeah, Monday to Thursday would be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then Friday would be open 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Saturday 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
I'm going to show you that floor plan that we referred to earlier, which is marked as A8. And if you could tell the board, you know, kind of what that represents and the layout. Can you read that?
Oh,
I know it's
yeah.
pretty small.
Well, I mean, this,
Okay.
this was before I
Oh, all right, I'm
came on
sorry.
board.
Okay, all right. I should mark this as A8. It's the only copy that I have. Angela, if you can refer to it. This was given to me, but it looks like the old A8 is not relevant. I'll replace that with A8. I'll say new A8. And if you could describe that, and I'll hand it up the board after you're
Yes, sure.
done describing it.
So right here is the doors, the outside doors. That would be the drop-off area where parents would come in. We would have 4 designated parking spots here for parents. On average, they'd probably be there for 5 minutes or less if they're already registered. They just bring their children in, sign them in, and then depending on what ages they are, this is the younger kids area. This would be from 2 to 4 years old, has the larger toys. And then this is the older kids area. And during the week, we would assume that there wouldn't be too many older kids unless it's the summertime, because they'd probably be in school. But the full-time daycare would then be throughout the whole area. This is an open area, which would be for crafts, meals, snacks. This is a gym/nap area, which is one of the well, there's many requirements for daycares in the state of Pennsylvania, but it requires an indoor, larger muscle area. So this is the gym, and then it'll also be used as a nap time for the younger children. There's one small office for the staff, the director. There's a janitorial closet here. And then there's boys' room, girls' room, and also already has a ADA bathroom that's already there.
You had mentioned the state of Pennsylvania. Are daycares regulated by the state?
Yes.
Which department, do you know?
Yes, the Department of Health Service, Human Services.
And do you have a required number of employees pursuant to the state regulations?
Yes, depending on how many children you have located there, you can, for the state, since we have so many mix of ages, you go by the youngest child that would be there. So if we have two-year-olds there, you need 1 adult for every 6 children there.
So you're basing it, your employee or staff parking is based on that number, the most conservative number?
Yes.
And what's the maximum number of students that you will have on this site?
Currently, based on the square footage, it depends on when it finally gets licensed by the state, but the most it would be 45.
And how many employees are you required to have or how many staff are you required to have for 45 people?
It would be that divided by 6. which is 8, yeah.
Okay. Talking about drop-off, how will they be dropped off? Again, I'll show you what's been marked as A6, and if you can tell the board how drop-off would occur. Or would it occur? Would there be a drop-off, or explain to the board?
Sure. I mean, for the full-time people, the people who work here, they'd already be parking probably where they usually park and then walk their children in over here. For the drop-off, which hopefully I'd love to serve, the people who already are working in this area, so it wouldn't add to the parking or traffic at all. But if it is outside people coming, they would drive around here, most likely. We have 4 parking spots that would be designated for Kids Clubhouse users only. They would park there, walk their children in to the front door, drop off, be there again less than 5 minutes if they're already registered. Then they just get back in their car, and then that's it.
Okay, so you won't have staff greeting people as they're dropping kids off like a traditional daycare center does?
There'll be one person at the front desk, but...
But I meant outside.
Oh, no, not outside. No.
Okay. just to talk a little about the parking requirements so the board knows, and I believe I mentioned it, we're talking about 4,244 square feet. For an office requirement, it would be, since we're at the high number for offices, it's 1 per 300, or one space for every 300 square feet. And also, the Radnor code says that you take 80% of your gross. So that would be 3385 divided by 300 is 11.3. So for the strict office use, it would require 12 parking spaces. For Angela's use, again, it's 3385, but you divide that by 500 according to code, which comes to 6 point something, and then 1 per each intendant, which is 6, so that would be 13. So technically, we probably need a variance, but it's relatively de minimis. I think we need maybe 1 or 2 spaces more than what the general office use would require. Additionally, Angela, did you do a parking count?
Yes.
And did you take certain days? You heard Les testify to the busiest days. Did your parking count include those busy days?
Yes, and I do have photos of them as well. If that's yeah, I did a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and a Thursday. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to show you what I've marked as A13. And let me hand them up to the board, and then you can describe.
So I took these photos from the Mainline Health Building, their garage, the separate garage that's up here, just because it gave me the best view on this angle of the parking lot. This was a Tuesday. I went in the afternoon, and I'll give you the averages of the 3 days, but I did do a count that day. And as you can see, this area, there's hardly any people parking there. That's at 2:30 in the afternoon. And then I did a Wednesday. I did that one.
And that kind of matches, that picture kind of matches the availability being shown on A6, right? That top portion.
Yes, and this is where I'm taking the picture from, right over here.
Where there's a white roof. Actually, there's a parking
Yes,
structure
right.
behind that
Yep,
building,
that's
behind the
when I'm
Mainline Health
standing on the
Building.
parking strip.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yep. And then Wednesday, I went right around lunchtime, and again, it looked very similar. Hardly any parking in this section. And then Thursday, I went in the morning. It was rainy that day, so it looks a little darker. And again, it looked, I think, even more sparse in the morning. But go ahead.
Okay. Did you said you did counts too? I don't know.
Yes,
I don't
yeah.
have those counts. Do you know?
Yes,
can you tell
so
me what your counts represented?
for the average of each of those days, it came out to 62 spaces that were
Available?
available. Yeah.
Have you attempted to find other space in Radnor for
Yes.
this use?
Yes.
Do you know off the top, well, what zoning district, there's only one zoning district permits this use, I believe, right?
Correct.
By right.
Yes.
And
That's the CO.
Unless, again, we're going to argue that this is permitted as part of the unified development, but, specifically in the CO.
Yes, and there's also one small section called PB, and there's 9 sections, which probably comprise of about 30 to 40 buildings. And myself and my realtor went around to all those buildings, and we confirmed that, or we wanted to see if can we go in a place that already allows daycare usage, and we confirmed that there are no vacancies currently in any of the buildings.
And you did that prior to
Yes.
going to Brandywine. This wasn't something that you did to establish your case. It was
Right.
more you looking for space, particular space.
Yes.
And you actually had talked to Kevin Kachansky, and he kind of told you or gave you some guidance as to where you would need to look in the CO zoning districts.
Yeah, we double and triple checked multiple times, so we know that of the areas that you can have a daycare in Radnor Township, there's no current vacancies.
That's all I would have for Angela.
Board members have any questions for this witness?
Yeah, I have a question. So we're talking about you need 13 spaces, 13 parking spaces? So what are we actually talking about? You have to have 13 spaces designated for your use only by the building?
No, 13 is code. Radnor
13 's
Township code for this use, for this size.
Right, but this
and
is a
number of
tenant
employees.
in a building that has
Correct.
a lot of tenants.
Correct.
So what's the total, I don't know if I heard testimony, as to what's the total number of parking spaces in the entire facility?
Actually, we have that less in, I'm sorry, Les responded to that, and, okay, you have to stand up, Les.
1,482 spaces. And then underneath the building, we have underground parking for 240 more.
Okay. So the requirement then, we have to be comfortable that at least 13 of those 1,482 spaces will be available on any given day? Is that what we're talking about?
No, I think I was showing more that the office use for this same size space is 12. And
Okay. Yeah,
under
okay.
code, just under code, and the required for this particular use is 13. So what I was establishing is this is not that much different than an office use, a little bit more, probably 1 or 2 spaces more, but it's very similar to what an office, if this was an office tenant, we wouldn't even be here for parking relief. It's because this is a different tenant is why we have to ask for the parking relief.
Yeah.
Different use than an office use, because this is permitted for office use and other uses. It wouldn't be an
I
issue,
understand
but
that.
since it's
Yeah,
a
there's
different use.
Different test for daycare centers.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess my question is, how do you determine counting parking spaces when you have 1,400 there? If she has to argue she meets the requirement, what does she do? Point to 13 spots?
No, I think all we're doing is saying we need a variance for 1 or 2 spaces because our use requires 1 or 2 more spaces than an office use. So they don't have to designate, it's not, for every use in this complex doesn't have to designate parking spaces, it's all like a general use. So when you have a mixed development,
Right.
you don't have to designate, this is for the retail, this is for the office. Everyone uses the same spaces. And I think she just was saying that Brandon wants her to give her 4 spaces just for drop-off, just because of the type of use that she has. Nothing's designated here as to spaces for any tenants. Well, there may be some, probably for the presidential suite tennis at Lincoln. I'm sure they have designated spaces, but they're in the garage. Okay.
Okay.
So I was just trying to show that it's very similar to the office use. I said
So-
she needs a couple more probably.
Just to build on that a little bit, if you took the building as it existed and applied the code would tell you you need X space.
Correct.
So I'm assuming that you have somewhat less than X, and it's been previously approved.
Yes,
So technically, what you're doing is exacerbating an existing nonconforming
Correct.
use. Fine.
correct.
Gotcha.
Yes, an existing nonconformity because at that time, back in the mid-'80s, as I mentioned, there was less of a standard, or you could show less of a standard. You could show that you had more than 20% devoted to general stuff. Now you only get 20%. 80% of your gross is what the number's based on. Back then, it could have been 50%, 60%, 70% of the gross. And that's why, obviously, a lot of the testimony regarding the availability of parking as well.
Other questions for this witness? Anybody else here in the room to be heard on this one? Okay, and the fact that there's no one here in opposition makes this perhaps a bit more of an academic question. Are you suggesting a hardship, or are you suggesting it's a permitted use?
Both. In the alternative. I think first, if you look at the PB district, which is what this is in, it talks about unified developments, planned neighborhoods, planned communities. And I guess section 59 is the use. And the use is, to some extent, it talks about the various uses permitted, and then it says the following additional uses consistent with a plan for the overall development of the tract, and then under 59B9, it says any use of the same general character as any of the above permitted uses. And there's a number of uses that are referred to there, including a motel or hotel. It's basically a general office development. I believe in today's world, with children and both parents working, that this is part and parcel of a unified type of development in today's world when you have both parents working. In addition, you heard testimony, and actually Angela's realtor is here too, and he can go into more depth as to their attempts to find office space in Radnor Township, and there was basically none available at all. Additionally, and again, I can get into this a little bit, Brandywine has had some difficulty leasing this space, I think, because of its location and things of that nature. But, that would be additional testimony that I could present if necessary. But I believe this is something that obviously is good for everyone involved. It's good for the township. And it's almost, how is this permitted? And in my opinion, is permitted when you look at a unified development of the PB type character, which is an office, retail, and general use development.
Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion in support of appeal number 3026.
A motion to grant the relief as requested. Is there a second to that motion?
Wait a minute, are we doing a variance, or are we doing by right? Because I think we absolutely need to make that clear.
I agree with you.
So what are
do you
you
want-
motioning, a variance or by right? Because,
By right.
Well, there's only by right by use. The parking spaces are something else. So you're saying a motion to approve by right or for
By right.
the use?
By right
And
and
a
use.
variance for the parking space?
Correct.
Okay, to clarify, that is the motion. Is there a second to that motion, or is there a request to amend the motion?
I'll second to get the
Okay.
discussion going.
Okay, open for discussion. Anyone want to jump in? In the absence of people jumping in, I'll jump in. In the absence of opposition from anybody in the community, I am persuaded that in this day and age, a use of this type is appropriately described as of a general character of an office use, that it is not uncommon in this day and age to have operations of this type associated with an office use. And given the detailed testimony here, it should be approved under those terms.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would tell you the risk and the fact that it's kind of a stretch for Brandywine to do this. I think it shows just how important this is. I think the community could use it. I see it to be an asset, and I'm definitely in support.
We'll call vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 None opposed. It's approved 5-0. Good luck with your business.
Thank you.
We're going to press on. Appeal 3027. The applicant, Baron Gemmer, regarding property located at 400 South Wayne Avenue and zoned R2 residential. The applicant seeks to appeal the issuance of a grading permit, GP 18084, issued October 4, 2018, for the construction of a single-family dwelling on the property within the R2 zoning district, and seeks the revocation of that permit by the township. Applicant contends that the issuance of the permit violates Section 280-112 slope controls of the code, including subsection 280-112D, E, and F. Applicant contends the proposed disturbance of steep slopes on the property does not comply with 280-112D and E. Applicant also contends that the issuance of the permit for the proposed development does not comply with 280-112F, which required any development of the property to comply with Chapter 255 subdivision of land and include review by the Planning Commission, approval by the Board of Commissioners. Mr. Gemmer, proceed.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, please.
I do. Baron Gemmer, Barongemmer. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I mentioned the Baron. Could kindly enter my appearance for Rockwell Glynn LP, who is the equitable owner of this property and actually the entity that made the application that we're referring to here. Luke Anastasi, which is the name, I believe, said in the application. Luke Anastasi, which is the name listed in the appeal, is actually an employee of Rockwell Glynn LP. And so he probably signed the application on behalf of Rockwell Glynn LP, who is the equitable owner of the property.
Nick,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, the second name there, Glynn?
Glynn, Glynn. And Greg Lingo is here, who is a principal of Rockwell Glynn.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
Mr. Gemmer, as you proceed, do you have a copy of the permit in question?
Excuse me?
Do you have a copy of the permit which is being challenged?
Not in paper form, I don't believe. Actually, hang on. I think I do. Actually, I do.
Before you start, I want to discuss a procedural matter. The permit that I'm looking at here is signed by the township engineer. Was this permit, Mr. Kachansky, signed by you?
No, it was not.
The issue that I have, and that I think the board needs to consider, is that I think you're at the wrong place in terms of your appeal. The board, this board, I don't believe, has jurisdiction over determinations made by the township engineer. I think an appeal of this grading permit is appropriately brought to the Board of Commissioners. And I did some research in advance of the hearing, and there was a case heard by this board in September of 2012, the appeal of Goshen Holding Company, appeal number 2881. In that case, it was a grading permit that was signed by the code officer, which was being challenged. And the board declared the permit void ab initio, or void at the beginning, because it was mistakenly signed by the code officer as opposed to having been signed by the engineer. But within the body of the argument and the determinations made by the board, they confirm their opinion. I'm not sure I see, I'll listen to you, but I'm not sure I see a reason to change this determination that the issuance of a grading permit and whether it was issued properly or not needs to be before the Board of Commissioners and not before the zoning board, or zoning hearing board. Now, I don't know, I don't know whether you want to express a different opinion to us, but, or,
No,
and I
actually-
will give this back to you
oh.
if you want to refer to it.
Yeah. No, thank you. I just want to clarify what you're trying to say. Are you saying because of, are you saying by its natural course, because it was signed by Steve Norsini, who's the township engineer? I just want to make sure about that.
I'm sorry, signed by whom?
The township engineer, Steve Norsini, that it's a properly issued permit.
No, I'm saying that it is not within the jurisdiction of this board
That's-
to ascertain whether or not it's a properly issued permit. And that,
Even if the matter is a zoning matter as far as the underlying merits.
It's a grading permit application.
Well, yes, but I mean, in the signature may be part of it, because if from the MPC 909-1, the zoning hearing board shall have exclusive jurisdiction to hear and render final adjudication in the following matters. And number 2 is appeals from the determination of the zoning officer. Oh, I'm very sorry. Appeals from determination of the zoning officer, including but not limited to the granting or denial of any permit, and then it goes on. So just the zoning officer not signing this, it's still a permit that was issued for the,
but the language you're reading indicates that the preface to the jurisdiction is a determination by the zoning officer, and then a permit which follows. There was not a determination by the zoning officer here. There was a determination by the township engineer.
and you're implying then that the township engineer's decisions are appealable to the Board of Commissioners?
Yes.
Only, or as opposed to Court of Common Pleas, or?
I would not deign to give you legal advice regarding exhaustion of remedies and whatnot. But this board doesn't have jurisdiction. I believe the Board of Commissioners does. Whether that's an appeal that needs to be exhausted before pursuing the courts, you would either have to do your own research or consult with counsel.
Or following, obviously, and I'm not convincing you otherwise, so following that advice, if I end up at the board, that may force the zoning officer to make a decision, which would then be appealable back to this board.
Yes. Again, I think that it would be our, I think that where we're heading with this is to dismiss your appeal to this board without prejudice of your right to press the appeal otherwise. And then you'll have to decide what, if anything, you want to do. But we don't have jurisdiction to hear the case. And
Yeah,
if we don't have jurisdiction, we can't go forward.
No, I understand, and let me just throw out a couple more points, because under 9091, it obviously does have things where things from the township engineer can be appealed. They tend to be with the floodplain or administration of any land use ordinance with regard to sedimentation. So there are things that are solely decisions of the township engineer that can be appealed to this board.
And again, it's my opinion, and I think the opinion collectively of the board, that this is not among those things. You know, if you appeal and we're wrong, and we're not doing it out of any substantive evaluation of whether your position's right or wrong. But again, based upon what I've looked at here, I don't think we have jurisdiction.
Understand. I mean,
So,
certainly if that
all right.
sentiment's shared by the
So-
board, I'm,
That being said, I would entertain a motion consistent with what I've suggested, if that's the thought of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the application of the applicant in Appeal 3027 be dismissed without prejudice for lack of subject matter jurisdiction here.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So the matter is dismissed by a vote of 5-0. Again, we're not making a determination. We just think you filed in the wrong place. That's it.
understand. Thank you for your time.
All right, we're going to address the continuance matter. And if counsel for the university could just step up quickly. The applicant, Villanova University, property located at 800 East Lancaster Avenue and zoned PI, planned institutional. Applicant seeks to modify the conditions imposed by the prior decision of the zoning hearing board in Appeal 1554 dated November 20, 1980, regarding a grant of relief by the zoning board from the height requirements for light standards at the Villanova football stadium. Applicant requests that the condition be modified in order to be consistent with resolution number 2006-05 dated February 14, 2006 of the Board of Commissioners. And the alternative, applicant requests a variance from section 280-64E of the zoning code, contends that the prior grant of the variance did not impose conditions except for the height and number of the light standards, or improperly imposed any other conditions. Applicant further requests such other relief from the zoning code consistent with the exhibits presented. Counsel, do you happen to have an extra copy of the letter that you had sent previously?
You know, actually, I printed off the computer. It doesn't have my letterhead on it, but it has the
well,
wording, actually, and I can read it in the record if you wish.
Mr. Chairman, there may be one in the folder that is.
You have it? I can read it in the record. I mean, I have it. Yeah.
I don't think we need to read it in the record. I just want to get on the record the fact that you are waiving the state-imposed deadlines regarding determination, and you paid for the further continuance.
Yes.
Counsel, I do want to make this point, which is this is somewhat of an unusual circumstance because the university has been cited for operating non-in-conformance and is continuing to, the status quo remains in place. So unlike a new application where somebody wants to build something and is asking for continuances, it's sort of no skin off the board's nose or the township's nose because somebody is deferring something that they're asking for rights for. Here, where you're continuing to arguably operate contrary to your rights, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge. Now, I understand the township was in agreement regarding the continuance, but I guess I want to encourage you to do whatever it is you're doing in advance of the hearing, whether it be seeking some resolution or otherwise, and it would be a mistake to come back for a January continuance if it was related to an expert being unavailable or an athletic director being out of the town or something. If there's going to be any more continuances, there should be a more fulsome description of what's going on that supports the continuance.
I understand.
Okay, thank you. Staying on the record, and if the next applicant could stay seated for a second, the next number will be Appeal 3028. This property is very proximate to my home, so I'm recusing myself to avoid the appearance of impropriety. Mr. Nagel will take over the board, and this is a good time for a break. So I'm going to gavel out. You break or no break? Break or no break? I'm
If
leaving.
it's needed, yes.
I'm leaving. Okay, give me 2 minutes to step out, and thank you all. Happy holidays.
I was going to pander to you and wear my pen tie this evening, but, you know, I decided, I was at the game. It was a heck of a game. I was at the game, really good game. As I said, my daughter enjoyed it. My Penn grad enjoyed it very much.
Are you there?
Bill, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
I'm not out here.
Oh, okay. Well, Merry Christmas.
Are they signed? Good.
Oh, no, I'm very comfortable right here. I will get the gavel, though.
Reach the gavel, though.
Give a guy a gavel. Raul will be participating in this discussion, stepping up. Thank you, Raul. So this is appeal number 3028. The applicant, Daniel Brogan, property located at 19 Rodney Road and zoned R4. The applicant's property is a corner lot. Applicant seeks a variance from Section 28-30C of the zoning code to construct an addition to the 2 front yards, and a variance from Section 280-30D side yard or 280-30E rear yard of the code to construct an attached garage to the existing dwelling. Applicant further requests such other relief as may be required in accordance with the plan submitted. Counsel?
Thank you. Nick Canoia representing the applicant, and I'll ask the applicants to stand and get sworn in. Stay clear.
That's all for Daniel and Brogan.
Is that on? This is another instance of a corner lot. We have a very small home, currently approximately 1,700 square foot. That's total square footage, gross square footage. Footprint's about 1,100, and we're requesting relief to put an addition on a home that looks like it hasn't been touched since 1953, which is when it was built. Dan, I'm going to show you what's been marked as A2, and is this a copy of your deed?
That's correct.
And you purchased the property when?
I purchased the property in 2009 in either late August or early September of that year.
Right, and
Although this deed may be from the 2013 refinance. I'm
Okay.
not sure which deed I actually pulled.
all right. And who do you live there with?
I live there with my wife, Elizabeth, who's also here today,
Right,
and our 1.5-year-old daughter, Ripley.
Okay. And prior to living on Rodney Road, where'd you live?
Well, immediately prior, I lived in Colorado. I went to school there for 4 years. But prior to that, I lived since I was 3 years old in Wayne with my parents, Radnor Township.
St. David's Ave? Or
St. David's Road.
Okay. Going to show you what I've marked as A3. And again, this is an aerial view, and I think the little yellow balloon shows your house, but again, it shows you on Rodney Road in Braxton.
That's correct.
Okay, and your front door is actually on Rodney, I believe, right?
Yes, you can't really see much because this is a summertime aerial photo, so the trees are full, but the door is about right there.
Okay, we have some other photographs I think we'll be able to show it. And actually, the application, and we'll show the plot plan, refers to a garage that's almost right on the property line. Where is that garage?
That
on this
garage
area?
is, I mean, if it's not right on the property line, it's within 6 inches of the property line here, and then same on the property line here. It sits just exactly on the back corner of the property.
Okay, so on the side and the rear as well, which we'll see in the survey when
Correct.
we get to the survey. And that's going to be demolished, that garage.
That garage will be demolished to make a yard space in the back there instead of a building.
Going to show you as A4. Is this the front on Rodney.
Yes, this is looking from Rodney towards the front of the house.
And actually,
Nick, can you set that over a little bit more?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Cal.
This is from Rodney Road, looking at the front of the house.
And actually, one of the requests is to extend the porch, and we'll show it over a patio that you have there.
Correct. So the only change we're making to the footprint on this is not really so much a change to the footprint. There's already an elevated, concrete and tile porch that's behind the shrubbery there. So all we're doing on this side, as far as coming out, is to put a roof over that for an open but still covered front porch.
Okay, and just to go through some photographs to make the board familiar with what we're talking about. A matter of fact, maybe the best thing to do here is why don't we take out the survey so we can point to where we're referring to.
Sure.
So I'm going to show you A8, which is a survey of the property. And so A4 that we're referring to, here's Rodney. So we're talking about the stone porch there, correct?
That's a stone porch is right there in front of the house on Rodney. You can see it's like
Okay.
that, and then the shrubbery is in front of it.
And A5, if you could show the one, tell the board what that represents and indicate where it's located.
Sure. A5 would be the side closest to 17 Rodney, which is our next door neighbor. So that's this wall right here that you're looking at.
Okay, and actually, we're not asking for any relief on that side of the house.
No, we're not asking for any, we're not moving that wall. That wall's going to remain.
Okay, and actually, you're only 10 feet anyway from the property line.
Correct.
On that wall.
And the house that's right next door is the same house mirrored across the property line. All the houses in the neighborhood are kind of virtually identical, but for additions on some.
And A6, this is the garage that we were referring to, right?
This is the garage that currently exists, the one that I described earlier that's on the two neighboring property lines.
And that's the garage back there that borders both the Huddlemeyer and the Lair properties.
Correct. It borders both those properties, just right on the line for both of them.
And A7,
A7 is the driveway entrance, which would be on this side of the house, right in front of that garage.
okay, as referred to on A8, again, it shows that it's a corner lot, correct? And
Correct.
kind of circular nature there. I'm going to show you, your first proposal is regarding Rodney. And I'm going to show you what I've marked as A9. And let me hand it to the board first. Actually, maybe I'll describe it. I'll hand it up to you.
Thank you.
Sorry, describe it?
Go ahead, yep.
So this is an alternate angle of the front that we looked at before that shows you can see then the steps up to that raised kind of porch patio area and the existing smaller roof that overhangs just the window that's in front of it.
So what you're proposing is to just extend that roof?
Yes, the goal would be to extend that roof to make a covered porch on the front of the house to make the entranceway more.
Okay, and I believe that current roof is about 2.5 feet, and we'll be extending it so that it's a total of 10 feet, so increasing it, the roof itself by 7.5 feet.
That's correct.
And you're not proposing enclosing this or anything?
No, that would be an open porch.
I'm going to show you, and let's look at an elevation of what it will appear to be. And I believe it's on, some of these are marked, I know they're marked differently. Some of them are marked A, some of them are marked P. The architectural drawings are marked P, just so you know where they come from. So I'm going to show you P4, and can you just tell the board what P4 represents?
P4 would be the new front of the house from Rodney Road.
And it kind of shows the elevation of what it would appear.
Right, so this right here would be that porch now with a cover, and then this would be the second floor, which is not so much wider than the current. It just builds up a full second floor over the existing first floor, which now the second floor only has about half because it's inside that peak.
Okay, so I'm going to show you Next, let's refer to the garage, and both the existing garage and the new garage, and I'm going to show you what I've marked as A10.
Okay, so this is standing on, oh, sorry. I'll wait for him to hand it up. This is standing, if you look at the, if I can come back to the plot plan, this is standing on the Huddlemeyers, who are our neighbors. Their driveway runs parallel to ours. So this is standing on their driveway, looking up the property line right here. This is their house, and then about, I'd say about 8 feet away, you can see kind of hidden in the shrubs there is the side of that garage that's right next to their house. And so we'd be tearing down that garage and putting in a backyard.
Now, have you, so this garage, this is their driveway and their house there, correct? The Huddlemeyers? All right.
Correct.
And your garage is right to the left of it, the existing garage. Have you spoken to Huddlemeyers about?
We've spoken to the Huddlemeyers. We talked to them a couple times a couple weeks ago. We didn't actually end up getting a signed letter from them, but they have no objections to the plans and are in agreement with it. They just, both families have young babies and jobs, and we couldn't be in the same place at the same time with a printer, so.
I'm going to show you, if we can, with the, what has been marked as P5, which is the elevation, and can you tell the board what P5 represents?
Sure. P5 would be the new, I guess, second front or side of the house on Braxton Road. So this would be the new garage that is now moved forward.
Referring to the right, on the right with the door, okay.
Yeah, this is one single garage door. This is on the right-hand side, so this would be the Huddlemeyers over on this side. And this is up now in the front with that old garage, now new yard behind it.
Okay, and that's being removed from its current location, which is actually pretty much on the property line, until to a location that is...
Here, it's probably best if we look up in the top
10
corner
feet.
of P1.
Right.
You can see what the new footprint of the house will be, where it's 10 feet away from the property line, whereas the old garage kind of occupied this square back here.
And there was one other small area of relief that will refer to P1, and if you can pull out maybe one of the photographs, or why don't we refer to A8 first and kind of indicate where that...
Nick, I hate to interrupt.
I'm sorry, go ahead, yeah, sure.
Do you happen to have a plot plan that shows this front yard, side yard, and rear yard setbacks?
Up on P1, Brad,
Yeah.
you can see it there, up on the upper right-hand corner of P1, the very first page. That's where it shows 10, and then it shows 25 for the side entry. The garage actually complies with the front yard setback. The new garage, I believe. 30 from the front, right. So it's just the side. So on the garage, it's the side yard setback of 10 feet. On the patio, it's the front yard setback on Rodney because, again, it is a structure, even though it's just a roof. And then the last request for relief actually deals with Braxton, as you see up on the right-hand corner there. It says side entry mudroom location.
That would be to put just a small mudroom and entryway on the front of the house adjacent to the driveway, as opposed to now, this garage will be connected to the house, but now the door comes in to the side, which is that side one you saw earlier.
So again, so it's 20 on one side instead of 30, 25 on another front side instead of 30, and then 10 instead of 12.
That's correct. That sounds, give or take.
Yeah, because on Rodney, even though it's just the roof, it's still, it's 20 feet.
Okay.
And
Yeah, because
then the
it's
other
a
one,
structure,
yeah.
yes.
Right.
I know that well. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. And then just referring to the mudroom, if you can, again, I believe we located it, and that's on the Braxton side.
That's on the Braxton side.
All right, and if we can, I believe it shows it, actually on P1, it shows, an 8-foot by 15-foot, I believe, mudroom entry.
Correct.
And I believe it shows it on the elevation
P5, probably.
P5, I think, yes. Which is, and if you can just tell the board.
So that would be this space right here next to the garage with a small covered doorway. So that would be the doorway to get in and out of the house from the garage and the driveway.
Now, you mentioned that you did speak to your neighbors
Correct.
regarding this, and we do have several letters. And we'll go to the
We can look at the
survey, and that's
survey.
probably the best way to show where these people are located. We mentioned the Huddlemeyers, and you've spoken to them several times.
Yeah, we've spoken to them a couple times about this project. They don't oppose it. We weren't able to, they have a letter, but we weren't able to get them to sign it before tonight. We kept missing them.
Let me mark some of these, and I only have one copy of these.
And then we have,
Hold on.
sorry, Nick.
So the one letter that I marked was A11, that's Roberta Laird's letter. So you have a letter from her, and I'll read it in the record. This letter is to affirm my support for the variance requested by Dan Elizabeth Brogan, living at 19 Rodney Road. I spoke with the Brogans. I explained the variances they are requesting, and they offered me the opportunity to review the plans for the proposed additions and modifications to their home. I understand certain variances are required and support the proposed modification and the variances they have requested. And actually, it looks like these letters may be the same, Dan. But,
They're not identical, but
okay.
they're very similar.
All right. The first one was Roberta Laird. They marked as A11 and indicated where.
That's this property right here, the adjacent neighbor on Rodney Road.
Henry and Regina Fay at 5 Braxton.
That is the house that is right here,
So like diagonal from your home.
diagonal from the front property.
All right, I marked that as A12. A13 is 1 Braxton. Linda
813 is 1 Braxton. That's the corner house right here, directly across from the driveway and the new garage.
And then Catherine Durr of 3 Braxton.
Would be in between 1 and 5 Braxton, also across from the front yard, or side yard, front yard, second front yard, and the new garage.
You actually walked around the whole neighborhood, I think, didn't you?
We did. We walked around the whole neighborhood and probably ended up speaking to, the neighborhood is kind of 2 streets that circle into each other, and it's kind of close-knit, so we spoke with probably 90% of the neighbors in person about the project. Same thing, we carried the plans around if they wanted to see them. We walked them through that.
What did you say about the Huddlemeyers? You don't have a letter?
We don't have a letter, but we spoke to them twice, and we gave them a letter that they said they would sign, and we just weren't able to connect with them. They also both work, and they both have they have together I think 9 or 10-month-old baby. So everybody has a lot going on.
How about on the other side of Rodney Road?
We stopped by, I think, twice? Yeah. We stopped by twice, and their high school-age children were home and answered the door. And we explained what we were there for, and told them that if their parents wanted to get in touch with us or had any issues. I presume they did.
I presume
High
notices
school
went
parent.
out.
But your notices went out, and everyone was notified.
I understand that they've been traveling the last couple of weeks off and on for work, so I don't know if we were able to connect with them, but they got the notice, I mailed it to them, and we did our best to let them know that this was coming in person. And I believe the little sign that the township put in our front yard directly faces their front door. Yes, sir.
That's all I have. Request the exhibits be part of the record, please.
Anyone in attendance would like to speak on this matter?
Just quick, I assume that you have a whole stormwater plan ready to go since you're over 1,500.
He's going to have to, I was mentioning that to him today.
You prepared for that?
I don't have the stormwater
I
plan.
told him
You're ready
to
for it.
prepare
But
for it. I told him to prepare for it, so.
I understand that
I
that
called
will be-
him. I called him like at 5:30 and said, by the way.
Yes.
If you're over 1,500 square feet, which you
It's a
may
lot of money.
be.
Okay, good, all right. He knows.
And there's no stormwater management obviously there today, so whatever they do, even 500, you got to do something. 1,500 is the magic number, and I told them that, that to be expecting that, and they're going to have to bring in an engineer to, give them estimates and what they have to do.
Okay.
Actually, they're reducing the impervious by a little bit, but still, that's not how
Well, actually,
the glorious township treats impervious.
the reduction is going to be more than that because the calculation on the new plan assumes a patio that's on the drawings that we're not going to be putting in. So it's probably actually a 3 or 4% reduction.
But I was explaining to Dan kind of how the township treats impervious and doesn't give you credit and things of that nature.
Okay. Thanks, Nick. Anything further?
Nothing further.
Anyone from the board? Exhibits have been proposed and accepted into evidence. Anyone on the board like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll do propose to approve a variance under section 2830C for the construction of an addition, well, numerous things in the testimony, including the variance for 2 front yards, setbacks, and a variance from section 28030D, which is a side yard or, I love this, or a rear yard under 30E.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been seconded. Discussion among the board? Anyone have any comments? Just so we're clear, we're back to this side yard, backyard thing. We have a front yard on Rodney Road, which currently we're at 20 feet, and the requirement under the code is 30 feet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. On Braxton Road, it looks like we have 25 feet, taking
Correct.
into account the new addition, and so we're 5 feet short of the 30-foot requirement. And then let's just assume this is a side yard over here, so we're talking about 12 feet, and you have 10 currently, so it's a two-foot variance there. Okay, well, thank you for that, and my sense is it's certainly it's and I think it's an improvement to the property. I think we're getting rid of a building that's right on the line, that's 1 foot away from the property line, and we're adding a portion of the existing building, so now you're going to be 10 feet away. So I think that's good news. So I'm in favor of the motion.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I want to put in the record is that, one of the things that I think that is leading my way is it's only 5 yards really for extension of the house in the front yard. And the fact that the 20-yard one, you're just doing a covered porch. So I want to make sure that that could not be enclosed.
I understand.
That would not be suddenly a new room. We're giving you, basically the right to go and close it and, okay. So it's always going to be open to the air.
Correct, it's always
Okay.
going to be a porch.
Great.
Brett, does that mean that we need to amend the motion?
I think so.
Okay, then I would propose that we amend the motion to make clear that the relief granted on the Rodney Road side? Yes, sir. The Rodney Road side of the property to permit the covered porch be granted subject to the condition that at no time in the future will the space below that roof be enclosed for any purpose.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion on the revised motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the revised motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you, and good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we're done. Before I do this, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And everyone out there watching, Merry
There's no
Christmas.
football tonight, right?
Meeting adjourned.
They must be going out.